jury duty? Should Buddhists do jury duty? Okay, and so I thought, since that was a question that many people may have, it would be good to do a BBC on it. So I think that is a very individual choice what to do. There's no particular Buddhist policy on it, and I don't think there's any right or wrong either. It just happens to be what you as an individual feel. If you feel comfortable doing jury duty or you don't. As for me personally, I don't feel comfortable doing it because I do prison work, so I know a lot of what goes on in a prison, and I don't care how guilty somebody is, I don't want to subject them to that. Yeah, if our prison system were one of genuine rehabilitation, where people were taught skills, where the people who had mental problems received proper medication and counseling, then I would feel fine if I had to make that decision. But lacking that, I don't want to send anybody to our prisons the way they are now. Okay. Now somebody's going to say, oh, so you think all these murderers should go free and walk around? No, I don't. I think sometimes for people's own protection, so they don't create negative karma of reoffending, and also for the protection of would-be victims of crimes. Sometimes people need to be incarcerated, but the incarceration should bring about some good change. It shouldn't be punishment. And currently, our quote justice system, which is not very just, functions on the basis of punishment. Somebody did something, they should be punished. As we all know from being children who were punished when we were naughty, you might change your behavior out of fear, but you don't change your behavior out of understanding. And you only change if you think you're going to get caught, but if you don't think you're going to get caught, you still go ahead because there's no real understanding, no real personal growth when you're punished. Punishment just means you're bad, and in the case of adults, lock them up. Also, so many young people get tried as adults. Now granted, once in a while there's a young person who really does something quite outrageous with a deliberate intention, and that kid needs a lot of help. Getting locked up in the youth authority doesn't really do that. But just trying kids as adults because of the nature of the crime, again, it doesn't help the child to grow up. Some of them are released anyway when they turn 18, but they haven't grown any. They've just been punished. And some of them, when they're tried as an adult, they could get a life or even a death sentence. Yeah. And so there you are, and you're maybe 15, 16 years old, and you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison, or you're going to get murdered legally by the government. And so I think my experience in writing to people who have been incarcerated for life as juveniles is some of them are extremely bright. It's a total waste of human potential. Yeah, two of them, actually a few of them I know quite well, and two of them I visited one time in Missouri, and the assistant warden walked me in and walked me out. And he made the comment, which I found very interesting, that these two men should not be incarcerated. They were incarcerated both for murder, yeah, when they were, I think one was 16 and one was 17. But they have changed. They had changed so much. And they were doing a lot of good work now inside the prison. One of them had started a television channel in the prison and put educational material on it. Okay. The other one was working for the Department of Justice, making videos for, the Department of Corrections, Department of Corrections, and was making videos for that, So they were doing really useful work, and they had developed skills, and yet they both had life sentences without parole. As it happened, the Supreme Court did throw that out and say that they had to be given a chance for parole. But that doesn't mean for these two young men, instantly they got a chance. It needed another Supreme Court case to say that the right to have a parole hearing was going to be, retroactive. Yeah, so that took a court case. Then Missouri, they're really busy, and it took years and years went by. It required another court case for the state government to act. Okay, one of them is out now. He's currently working for a TV station near where his mother lives. He's living with his family. The other one, I believe he's still incarcerated. I haven't heard from him for a while. He is trans, so I should say she is trans, living in a male prison, and doing a lot of work for people who are trans in terms of counseling, in terms of legal things, and so on, because he had spent his time when in prison learning the law. And so he often, there are what do they call, jailbird lawyers that, different inmates who learn the law and then counsel the other guys in their cases. So it was like that. Okay, so when I get a request for jury duty, I just say I'm Buddhist. I cannot, if it's a death penalty case, I cannot sentence anybody to death, and I can't say I'm going to be unbiased according to what the law says is unbiased, in even giving a judgment on different cases. Because so many of these cases, what I would do is these people need a good environment where they can thrive. Can we create a good environment where they can learn skills and thrive? Then, if I could do that instead of jury duty, I think they would be quite meaningful. Yeah. Okay, but I know that other people who are Buddhist, and they're fine doing jury duty. I think go for it. If you feel comfortable doing that, it's good to have people in the pool of jurors who are not thinking just of punishment, but also have some compassion in their mind and think, have a different standard maybe for judging people. So
we do the practices with this aspiration to be of benefit to beings, not to harm them, to benefit them. And in our understanding, the best benefit is to actually, for beings to be liberated from cyclic existence. And we aim to become Buddhas in order to help beings to be free in this way. So generate those thoughts in your own way. So Venerable Children has laid out this sadhana for us, helping us to generate these various mind states. And she starts by having us think about all of our potential, all the kind of positive qualities that we can develop. Infinite love, compassion, wisdom, skillful means. So imagine what it would feel like to be those qualities. Just let yourself be love, be wisdom, try to feel the expansiveness and peace in your heart, the wisdom that it takes to have this kind heart, to be unencumbered in any way, vast and expansive. You can take in everything that's happening in this world, reaching out to every being, human and otherwise, to benefit each one. So now imagine that these qualities of love, compassion, wisdom, skillful means appear in front of you in the form of Shakyamuni Buddha. So imagine this Buddha in front of you, in the space in front of you made of radiant, transparent light. He's sitting on a throne, above which is an open lotus flower and cushions of the sun and moon discs. This entire visualization is made of radiant, transparent light. But you're imagining a living being with a light body. So you feel yourself in the presence of the Buddha. But Buddha's body is golden in color. He wears the robes of a monastic. His right hand, with the palm down, rests on his right knee, the earth-touching mudra. And his left hand is in his lap, holding a bowl of nectar. And this nectar is the medicine to cure our afflictions and all of our hindrances. And the Buddha's face is very beautiful. You can look at the Buddha's eyes. He's smiling. His eyes are smiling. He's looking at you with total acceptance. And as he looks at you, he's also encompassing all sentient beings. The Buddha's eyes are very peaceful, long and narrow. His lips are red and his earlobes are long. Imagine rays of light radiating from every pore of the Buddha's body. This golden light going out to all the parts of the universe, touching beings. carrying miniature Buddhas to help beings. And as they complete their work, they dissolve back into the Buddha. The Buddha is surrounded by the entire lineage of spiritual teachers, all the meditational deities, innumerable other Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Arhats, Dakas, Dakinis, Dharma protectors. And at the side, near each spiritual mentor, is an elegant table, and on it are Dharma books. The sounds of the Dharma fill the air. And they're all so happy that we're here doing this together. Imagine their minds just blissful and peaceful, gazing at all sentient beings. So you imagine that actually you are surrounded by all sentient beings in human form. Your mother of this life is on your left. Your father of this life is on your right. Any people you have difficulty with, you imagine in front of you, facing the Buddha, keeping them there for protection. Family and friends are nearby. Countless strangers fill the space around you. And all of us are looking to the Buddha for guidance. So first we need to cultivate a sense of refuge. So we think of all the dangers of cyclic existence. Just think about how things are not secure. We run into dissatisfaction often, dukkha often. And people, all the beings around us, all the sentient beings around us, are also in the same boat, floundering in cyclic existence. And many of them have not met any kind of teachings that will help them out of this quagmire. So we generate compassion. And now think of the wonderful qualities of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and generate this sense of confidence in them and their ability to guide you out of all of these recurring problems. To take refuge, we need the causes, this kind of concern, this kind of alarm, fear type, and also this confidence and faith, and the compassion. So it is possible, on the basis of your present life and mind, to free yourself from all of these undesirable experiences. So resolve to explore that possibility to the fullest. Feel great trust and confidence in the three jewels, and open your heart to rely upon them to guide you and others from all of these difficulties of cyclic existence, and bring us to the peace, liberation, and full awakening. So as we do these refuge verses, starting here, now we're on the top of page 21, we'll be taking refuge in the Buddha, and we imagine actually leading all of the sentient beings around us and going for refuge. And we visualize white, radiant light flowing from all of the Buddhas, the spiritual mentors, the Bodhisattvas, all of these holy beings flowing into us and all the beings around us. And this light completely purifies all of our destructive karmic imprints and afflictions. And it also brings all the realizations of the path. So put your hands in prayer position. Namo Guruvya. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Dharmaya. Nama Sangaya. 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 So feel that you've come under the protection of the three jewels. And now we turn our thoughts to others and think about how much we depend on other beings for everything that we have, everything we know, everything we use, everything we enjoy. Our food, clothing, resources of every kind. These come due to the efforts of others. Our knowledge, talents, good qualities, these too are developed due to the kindness of others. And our ability to practice the Dharma certainly depends on others who brought the teachings to us over the millennia by generating realizations in their mind and teaching. So this is a very great kindness, all of these things we want to bring to mind. Our innermost wish is to be free from suffering. And this is the case for everyone else as well. We want to be happy, and all beings want to be happy. And like us, they encounter many difficulties, problems, sufferings. And usually, actually, their difficulties are more so than our own. Not always, but often. And when we examine our capacity to help beings, we find that we're actually quite limited. And we know from our practice that if we can reduce our anger, our attachment, our ignorance, our various faults, and if we can increase all of our good qualities, we're really going to be in a position to benefit beings. Imagine if we had just this generous heart that gives so easily, takes delight in giving, the kind of ethics that doesn't harm, has that just ingrained fortitude, loving kindness, compassion, wisdom. We'll be in excellent position to help beings by having our good qualities developed. And if we develop them fully, like a Buddha does, then we'll be able to be of the greatest benefit to beings. So we generate this altruistic intention in order to be able to benefit beings most effectively. So as we take refuge and generate bodhicitta, imagine that light is flowing into you from all of these Buddhas and holy beings. And it's flowing into you and all the sentient beings around you. So we're on the top of page 22. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by engaging in generosity and the other far-reaching practices, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by engaging in generosity and the other far-reaching practices, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by engaging in generosity and the other far-reaching practices, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. So imagine the Buddha is so pleased with your altruistic intention. And a replica emerges from the Buddha, comes to the crown of your head, melts into golden light, and flows into you. Feel that you and the Buddha have become inseparable. Feel very close to the Buddha and allow your mind to be transformed and inspired. Let go of all conceptions you have about yourself. Let go of any self-denigrating thoughts. Let go of the concept of inherent existence and meditate on emptiness. At your heart appears a small Buddha made of light. He radiates the light of wisdom and compassion in all directions throughout the entire universe. And this light transforms all sentient beings into Buddhas and all environments into pure lands, which are places where all the circumstances are conducive to practicing the Dharma and generating realizations. So imagine this. You've transformed all sentient beings into Buddhas, and all environments into Pure Lands in your imagination. But why hasn't this become a reality? We sentient beings have bias, prejudice. We lack love, compassion, and joy. So now we want to wish ourselves and others to have all of these qualities. So we contemplate the four immeasurables. We do this to reinforce our own felt experience of love, compassion, joy, and equanimity for everyone. Friends, strangers, enemies, relatives, people you don't like, people you don't trust, anyone, everyone. So as we say those four immeasurables, you want to listen to yourself say the words and contemplate as you recite. We'll pause between each of the four. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings not be separated from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. So, in order to achieve what we've just been aspiring towards, we need to purify our negativities, and we need a lot of merit. We need to abandon things and adopt things. So when we do this 7-limb prayer, this encompasses all this abandoning and adopting things. So we'll pause after each line. And you want to put your hands in the prayer position for this. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. So imagine yourself and all the beings, the sentient beings around you, making prostrations to all the holy beings in front of you in the field of merit, repeatedly prostrating. And present clouds of every type of offering, actual and mentally transformed. So imagine offering everything beautiful to the Buddha and all the holy beings. You can fill the sky with offerings. Make it very lovely and beautiful. You can think of flowers and fields and just everything that you love. Offer it to all the holy beings. You can do this repeatedly. I confess all my destructive actions accumulated since beginning this time. So now we do like a glance meditation of the four opponent powers. So for this, bring to mind something that you wish to purify, some fault or mistake. Bring it clearly to mind and generate regret for that. And then the other opponent powers are taking refuge in generating bodhicitta, which we're doing in the practice. The practice itself will be the remedial action, but make a determination not to do this action again. And rejoice in the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. So think of common sentient beings like ourselves, the holy beings, and delight and rejoice in all of the virtue created by any kind of being. Let go of any jealousy, envy, and just rejoice in the goodness in the world. Use your own life experience. Think of things, people that you want to rejoice. And then the next verse. Please remain until cyclic existence ends. So now we offer a double dorje. This symbolizes long life. We offer this to the holy beings. We do this requesting them to live long, to always be a part of our life. And you can do this multiple times in your imagination. And then the next verse. And turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. So again, make this offering. You're offering with both hands this beautiful 1,000-spoke Dharma wheel, golden in color. Offering this to the teachers and the Buddhas to guide you and to continue to teach the Dharma. The seventh limb. I dedicate all the virtues of myself and others to the Great Awakening. So now we steer these limbs toward full awakening for ourselves and all beings. And now we'll offer the mandala. Here we imagine everything beautiful in the universe, offering it to all the holy beings with the wish that they will continue to teach and guide us and that we can generate realizations in our mind. This ground anointed with perfume, flowers strewn Mount Meru, for land, sun, and moon, imagined as a Buddha land and offered to you. May all beings enjoy this pure land. The objects of attachment, aversion, and ignorance, friends, enemies, and strangers, my body, wealth, and enjoyments, I offer these without any sense of loss. Please accept them with pleasure and inspire me and others to be free from the three poisonous attitudes. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. So imagine all the holy beings are just delighted and they receive your offerings. And the offerings melt into light and dissolve into them. And these all absorb into the Buddha's heart. And then immediately he radiates light back to you, filling your body and mind. And this light inspires you to accomplish the path to full awakening. So in order to progress along the path, we need to develop realizations. And in order to do this, we need the inspiration of the lineage of spiritual mentors, especially your principal teacher or your root guru, who is the one who has touched your heart deeply. If you don't have a specific teacher, just think about Shakyamuni Buddha, or maybe you have a connection in your mind with his holiness. And we make this request on page 25. Glorious and precious root guru, sit upon the lotus and moon seat on my crown, guiding me with your great kindness. Bestow upon me the attainments of your body, speech, and mind. And so then, at this point, you imagine that a replica of your teacher And the aspect of the Buddha emerges from the Buddha in front of you. And it comes to sit on a lotus and moon disk on the crown of your head, facing the same direction as you. So then this Buddha on the crown of your head is going to act as an advocate for you to request inspiration from the entire field of merit as we continue with the request. And we're doing the long one on page 26. Buddha, unequal teacher and guide, venerable protector Maitreya, successor, superior Sangha prophesied by Buddha, to you three Buddhas and Bodhisattvas I make request. Buddha, head of the Shakya clan, the foremost guide, peerless in expounding emptiness, Manjushri, embodiment of the Buddha's complete wisdom, exalted Nagarjuna, best of the superiors who sees the profound meaning, to you three crowning jewels of clear exposition I make request. Atisha, upholder of this great vehicle, who sees the profundity of dependent arising, Drome Rinpoche, elucidator of this good path, to these two ornaments of the world I make request. Avalokiteshvara, great treasure of oblivious compassion, Manjushri, masteress, flawless wisdom, Tsongkhapa, crown jewel of the snowy land sages, Losangdrapa, I make request at your feet. Holder of the white lotus, embodiment of all the conqueror's compassion, guide benefiting migrating beings in the land of snow mountains and beyond, sole deity and refuge, Tenzin Gyatso, at your feet I make request. The eyes through whom the vast scriptures are seen, supreme doors for the fortunate who would cross over to spiritual freedom, illuminators whose wise means vibrate with compassion, to the entire line of spiritual mentors I make request. So imagine all of the figures in the field of merit melting into light and dissolving into you. Into the central figure of the Buddha in front of you. All the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, the Arhats, Dakas, the Dakinis, Dharma protectors, all of these beings melt into light and dissolve into the central figure of Shakyamuni Buddha. And now Shakyamuni Buddha embodies the three jewels. And this Buddha absorbs into the Buddha on the crown of your head. And then as we recite the Buddha's mantra, try to let your mind be very open and receptive. Imagine this white light flowing into you from the Buddha on the crown of your head. It purifies all your negativities, all your obscurations, and it generates within you the realizations of the stages of the path. So we'll recite the Buddha's mantra together. Tayata Om Mune Mune Maha Mune Soha. 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 Tayata Om Mune Mune Maha Muneye 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 Soha. Now, re-establish the visualization of Shakyamuni Buddha above the crown of your head, made of golden, transparent, radiant light, a living being. And this Buddha melts into light and dissolves into you. Your body, speech, and mind become inseparable from those of the Buddha. And then we'll make the dedication prayers, starting on the page that we're on in the sadhana, which is 27. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. Well, I do that every session. I do the preliminary practices in my mind. Some of them, the other ones are embedded in the practice, so that when I start a session, I'm trying.
a form of hubris. You know, now what you do is just pay your bills and, pack heat if you need to, and don't worry. That's all. Yes. Worry is praying to the devil. That's great. Worry is betting against yourself. Wu Yang, a great Chinese Taoist who wrote many, many commentaries on the I Ching, he was asked at the end of his life what was his conclusion of a life of studying the I Ching. He said, worry is preposterous. That was it. Don't worry. You don't know enough to worry. That's God's truth. Who do you think you are that you should worry, for crying out loud? Don't worry. That's God's truth. You don't know enough to worry. That's God's truth. Who do you think you are that you should worry, for crying out loud? Don't worry. That's God's truth. Worry is preposterous. Don't worry. Worry is preposterous. Don't worry. Worry is preposterous. Worry is preposterous. Don't worry. Worry is preposterous. Worry is preposterous. Don't worry. That's God's truth. That's God's truth.
I tell you, it is preposterous.
I want to tell you about a plan you can follow which takes only a little time each day, 5 days a week, and which brings results out of all proportion to the time spent. For a moment, consider the things your mind has brought you. Everything you have, your work, your relationship with your family and others, your philosophy of life, all come to you as a result of using your mind. Now consider the estimate made by experts. You have probably been operating on less than 10% of your mental capacity, much less. Dr. Herbert Otto, a psychologist, educator, and chairman of the National Center for the Exploration of Human Potential, reminds us that many well-known scientists, such as the late Abraham Maslow, Margaret Mead, Gardner Murphy, Osbridge English, and Carl Rogers, subscribe to the hypothesis that man is using a very small fraction of his capacity. Margaret Mead quotes a 6% figure. Herbert Otto writes, my own estimate is 5% or less. Neurological research at the UCLA Brain Research Institute points to enormous abilities latent in everyone's life, suggesting an incredible hypothesis. The ultimate creative capacity of the human brain may be, for all practical purposes, infinite. Infinite. Now, how can we tap this gigantic potential? Well, it's a big and very complex problem with many ramifications. But as Herbert Otto points out, it is clear that persons who live close to their capacity, who continue to activate their potential, have a pronounced sense of well-being and considerable energy. They see themselves as leading purposeful and creative lives. If everything you have is the result of using just 10% of your mind, consider for a moment what it will mean to you and your family if you can increase this percentage. None of us, as a rule, has the slightest notion of the real capabilities of his mind. But believe me when I say that your mind can be compared to an undiscovered gold mine. And it makes no difference whether you're 17 or 70. 17 or 70. And it makes no difference whether you're 17 or 70. 17 or 70. Look at it this way. Your goal is in the future. Your problem is to bridge the gap which exists between where you are now and the goal you intend to reach. This is the problem to solve. Barbara Seashore, when chairman of the Department of Psychology at Northwestern University, pointed out that successful people are not people without problems. They're simply people who've learned to solve their problems. Successful people are not people without problems. They're simply people who've learned to solve their problems. There you have it. Living successfully, getting the things we want from life is a matter of solving the problems which stand between where we now are and the point we wish to reach. And it makes no difference whether you're 17 or 70. 17 or 70. And it makes no difference whether you're 17 or 70. 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 No one is without problems. They're a part of living. And let me show you how much time we waste in worrying about the wrong problem. The wrong problem. No one is without problems. They're a part of living. And let me show you how much time we waste in worrying about the wrong problem. The wrong problem. Here's a reliable estimate of the things people worry about. Things that never happened, 40%. Things over in the past that can't be changed by all the worry in the world, 30%. Needless worries about our health, 12%. Petty miscellaneous worries, 10%. Real, legitimate worries, 8%. In short, 92% of the average person's worries take up valuable time, cause painful stress, even mental anguish, and are absolutely unnecessary. And of the real legitimate worries, there are two kinds. They're the problems we can solve I'm going to assume you've decided upon a goal. Your problem is, how do I achieve it? Your goal may be a promotion, a greater income, a beautiful home. It makes no difference what your goal happens to be. But you have your goal, and you know that you will become and you will achieve what you think about. That is, if you stay with it, you will reach your goal. But how? Well, it's right here that your mind comes into play. What is your mind? No one knows for sure. Perhaps the best way to describe it is to quote Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright Archibald MacLeish. In his play, The Secret of Freedom, a character says, the only thing about a man that is a man is his mind. Everything else you can find in a pig or a horse. The only thing about a man that is a man is his mind. Everything else you can find in a pig or a horse. That's uncomfortably true. The human mind is the one thing that separates us from the rest of the creatures on Earth. Anything that comes to us in the future will almost certainly come to us as a result of the extent to which we use our minds. And yet it's the last place on Earth the average person will turn to for help. The only thing about a man that is a man is his mind. Everything else you can find in a pig or a horse. The only thing about a man that is a man is his mind. Everything else you can find in a pig or a horse. The psychozoic age, the age of the mind, that staggers the imagination. Staggers the imagination. The psychozoic age, the age of the mind. And you own one. Free and clear. In order to reflect just a moment on the human mind, consider what is accomplished. Human knowledge has advanced more in the past 50 years than in all the preceding 10,000 years of human civilization. Of all the scientists who ever lived, it's estimated that 90% of them are alive today. We've reached in the area of ideas and human advancement a plateau so high it was undreamed of by even the most optimistic forecasters as recently as 10 years ago. But every new idea triggers additional ideas, so that now we're in an era of compounding advancement on every front and in every area that staggers the imagination. Dr. Hollow Shapley of Harvard has said that we're entering an entirely new age of man. He calls it the psychozoic age, the age of the mind. The psychozoic age, the age of the mind. That staggers the imagination. Staggers the imagination. The psychozoic age, the age of the mind. And you own one. Free and clear. The psychozoic age. Now let's look at a few facts. Now, the average working person has at his disposal an enormous amount of free time. In fact, if you total the hours in a year and subtract the sleeping hours, if he sleeps 8 hours every night, you'll find he has almost 6,000 waking hours, of which he spends less than 2,000 on the job. Now, this leaves him 4,000 hours a year when he's neither working nor sleeping. These can be called discretionary hours, with which to write your present primary goal. Fairly simply. Then, since our future depends upon the way in which we handle our work, write down as many ideas as you can for improving that which you now do. Try to think of 20 possible ways in which the activity that fills your day can be improved. You won't always get 20, but even one idea is good. Now remember two important points with regard to this. One, it's not particularly easy, and two, most of your ideas won't be any good. Now when I say it's not easy, I mean it's like starting any new habit. At first you'll find your mind a little reluctant to be hauled up and out of the old familiar rut. But as you think about your work and ways in which it might be improved, write down every idea that pops into your mind, no matter how absurd it might seem. Let me tell you what will happen. Some of your ideas will be good, and with testing. The most important thing this extra hour accomplishes, however, is that it deeply embeds your goal in your subconscious mind. Discretionary hours, just 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, and devote this hour to exercising your mind. Exercising your mind. Discretionary hours, just 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, and devote this hour to exercising your mind. Exercising your mind. Starts the whole vital machinery working. And 20 ideas a day, if you can come up with that many, total 100 a week, even if you don't think on weekends. An hour a day, 5 days a week, totals 260 hours a year, and still leaves you 3,740 hours of free leisure time. And this means you'll be thinking about your goal and ways of improving your performance, increasing your service. 6.5 full extra working weeks a year. 6.5 40-hour weeks devoted to thinking and planning. Can you see how easy it is to rise above the so-called competition? It will still leave you with 15 hours a day to spend as you please. let's briefly recap. This week, start spending 1 hour each day getting as many ideas as you can. Try for 20 a day on ways to improve what you're now doing. Remember, the achievement of your goal very likely depends upon it, as does your own future. 2, if everything you now have is a result of using 5 to 10% of your mental abilities, you can imagine what life will be like if you can increase this figure to 20% or more. 3, successful people are not people without problems. They're simply people who try to solve their problems. It's the miracle of your mind. Miracle of your mind. It's the miracle of your mind. Miracle of your mind. 4, don't waste time and energy worrying about needless things. 40% of them will never happen, 30% have already happened and can't be changed. 12% are needless worries about our health, 10% are petty miscellaneous worries, and only 8% are real. Try to separate the real from the unnecessary and solve those which are within your ability to solve. Last of all, the only thing in the world that can take you to your goals in life is your mind, its effective use, and following through on the good ideas that surprise you. Each of us has a tendency to underestimate his or her own abilities. We should realize that we have, deep within ourselves, a reservoir of great ability, even genius, that can be tapped if we'll just dig deep enough. If we'll just dig deep enough, it's the miracle of your mind. Miracle of your mind. It's the miracle of your mind. Miracle of your mind.
Consciousness has other notions of how things ought to be, what virtue is, and so on. One of the problems that man has to face is reconciling himself to the foundation of his own existence. And this is the first function of mythology. And this is the first function of mythology. That reconciliation of consciousness another, you become aware of yourself. Your consciousness becomes aware of that darkness, that being which came into being out of darkness and which needs its own support. And this is the first function of mythology. This is the first function of mythology. That reconciliation of consciousness with the mystery of being. And this is the first function of mythology. And the realization of their mystery as something that consciousness is not going to be able to criticize, not even going to be able to elucidate, not even going to be able to name. It is something beyond naming, beyond all definition. That's the first point. And when that is lost, one loses the sense of awe, which Goethe calls the best thing in man, the sense of gratitude for one's privilege of having this center of consciousness aware of these things. And this is the first function of mythology. This is the first function of mythology. That reconciliation of consciousness with the mystery of being. And this is the first function of mythology.
My dad is moving us to another city, and I'll never see any of you ever again. What?
Let me read you this story. See what you think of it then.
Once upon a time, there was a Chinese farmer who lost a horse, ran away, and all the neighbors came round that evening and said, "That's too bad." And he said, maybe. The next day the horse came back and brought 7 wild horses with it. And all the neighbors came around and said, "Why, that's great, isn't it?" And he said, maybe. And he said, maybe. And he said, maybe. And he said, maybe. The next day his son, who was attempting to tame one of these horses and was riding it, and was thrown and broke his leg. And all the neighbors came round in the evening and said, "Well, that's too bad, isn't it?" The farmer said, maybe. And the next day the conscription officers came around looking for people for the army. And they rejected his son because he had a broken leg. And all the neighbors came round at the evening and said, "Isn't that wonderful?" And he said, maybe. 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 It's of immense complexity. And it is really impossible to tell whether anything that happens in it is good or bad, because you never know what will be the consequences of a misfortune. Or you never know what will be the consequences of good fortune.